Welcome to this week's edition of Career Networking Center Conversation. Today we're with Kim White, Executive Director of CNC, and Jim and Virginia, two of the great volunteers. We're talking about networking, and networking can take on a lot of meetings. Jim, let me start with you. Talk a little about the importance of LinkedIn and how CNC helps their clients use LinkedIn.
Sure, thanks. And by the way, I'm Jim Hill. I've been a coach for 22 years, I think, with the CNC. And one thing I stress I do LinkedIn one-on-ones with clients, kind of as a precursor to networking. And I stress always using LinkedIn. So I show them how to connect with people. I emphasize that every time you meet somebody, connect with them on LinkedIn. You can do it on your, I tell people, do it on your phone while you're having lunch with them. You can connect with them on LinkedIn, because the real power of LinkedIn comes when you have lots and lots of connections. And I show people how to do that.
Virginia, besides using LinkedIn, there's in-person networking, and some of us are kind of introverts. We're a little shy and nervous about meeting new people. How do you help CNC clients overcome that fear?
Well, first of all, I think that introverts can make the best networkers because they're really good listeners. So if somebody is feels like they're an introvert, I'll say, don't worry about that. Just start with a question about somebody else. People love to talk about themselves. So when you meet somebody or when you call somebody, ask them for information, ask them about themselves and get them talking. But always, as an introvert, be willing to talk about yourself. And that's probably the hardest thing for an introvert. So have a good list of your qualities, your skills, what you've accomplished in the past, just in the back of your mind. So when you get a chance to talk, you're ready.
And Jim, along that line, when you first meet someone, when you're in the job search mode, what should you say? What should you confidently say in, say, an elevator pitch to gain some interest, but be reasonably short and interesting?
So for reasonably short is important, like, and 30 seconds is great. And it's really important. We talk about it in some of our workshops about personal branding. Well, give yourself a title and always use that same title, because so if you're a financial analyst, say, hi, I'm Jim Hill, I'm a financial analyst. Say that all the time, because people will forget your name, but they'll remember your title. And then you can talk a little bit more about your strengths and weaknesses. Because what makes that important is when people see a job description that says, financial analyst, and they're not one, they'll say, well, who do I know that's a financial analyst? Oh, Jim.
Yeah. Jim, I think something you just said, if you don't mind me interjecting here, is there is timing, right? 30 seconds, 60 seconds, that you really have to make sure that you're keeping it short and sweet, because after 90 seconds or so, you just become a talking head. And that's really important to not do so.
So I'll open this up to anybody. If you're in the job search mode, who should you network with?
Anybody.
Everybody.
Anybody and everybody. You really don't. People know people, and until you get to know them a little bit better, you don't know who they know. And it doesn't really matter what level they're at, because they still know people. So the answer is everybody and all the time.
Yeah. And I think really specifically, you should look at, your neighbors, your folks you went to school with, your folks your kids go to school with. I mean, there's just any and everybody, to what Jim said, you need to really be networking with.
Yeah,
we often ask people to make a list of the people that they know, and they start and they have 5 people. And then we say, well, what about from your school days? And what about in your neighborhood? And they'll end up with a much longer list. And those are just people to get to know better, to let them know who you are and what you're looking for.
Right. There's a movie about sales, and in it the character says, always be closing. Well, I've turned that into always be networking.
Always be networking. I like that. That's a hashtag.
That's a hashtag. Always be networking.
Always be networking.
And I think a lot of people think of networking as asking for favors or asking for help, but really it's just connecting with people and finding out what they're doing, what they know, what they're interested in, but also what you're looking for and who you are and what you have to offer.
Right.
Networking is a lot like gardening. You have to plant seeds, and it really is. you plant seeds, you water them, you don't know what's going to grow, you don't know what's going to grow, and sometimes plants die, but sometimes they turn into, beautiful flowers. And networking is kind of like that. When you first meet somebody, you don't know where that relationship is going to go, but you have to have a little faith that it might go somewhere really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one final question along this line. Years ago, you would submit your resume and hope that someone would call you. Now, it seems like it's more important who you know. Can any of you talk about how important it is through your network to get to know the right people?
Well, I would say anybody could be the right person because you don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah, the problem with technology is wonderful, but it's also clogged up the recruiting process. So companies get thousands of resumes for every position, and it's really hard for them to sort through it to find good candidates. So they need help, and the help comes from networking. The help comes from, I apply for a job. Virginia knows me. She also knows the HR manager at that company. She lets them know, hey, Jim's got a great background. You should look at his resume.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other final thoughts on networking?
No, and
I would just say that if you've been interviewed by somebody, always follow up, because now you're a known commodity, and that's a networking opportunity as well.
yeah.
Very good.
I would say the other thing is networking is as much about giving as it is getting. So help people. When you network with people, you can help, and do that as well.
Yeah. I think also when you're talking about networking, when you're trying to meet with people, one of the things you want to do is you want to ask them about themselves. But at the end of the day, once they start talking about themselves and then they get to know you, they start asking you questions, and then they're more willing to put your name out there in front of someone that's going to be a decision maker. So,
right.
Thanks to all of you. If all of you would like to learn more about networking, we'll hope you'll reach out to the Career Networking Center. Goodbye for now. We'll see you again next week.
Take care.
bye-bye.